Greetings and welcome to another edition of Prescott Talks here at Prescott E-News in downtown Prescott. I'm your host, David McNabb, and my guest today on this edition is Allison Lenocker, and she's the director of CCJ, that is the Coalition for Compassion and Justice.
That's correct.
All right, Allison, thank you for coming and spend some time with me on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. Let's start off with a little bit about your own history.
Sure.
And how you came to Prescott and how you came to CCJ.
So I was born and raised in West Phoenix. I went to high school down there. I moved up here in 2011. My background actually is working with adults with developmental disabilities. So I worked for the city of Peoria for about 10 years with an adaptive adult recreation program, and then I also coached Special Olympics for about 10 years down in Phoenix.
Great. Yeah, awesome.
And so I came up here. I came up here for love. Don't worry, it worked out. We're married.
Yay!
Yeah, it's a good story. I started working at Mingus Mountain Academy. I was there for many years. And then actually my predecessor before me, Jesse Hans, called me up one day and said, I have this assistant director position. What do you think? I toured.
How did she know you?
Through Mingus. We worked together at Mingus Mountain Academy.
She was also working at Mingus Mountain Academy?
And then she went to CCJ.
And Mingus Mountain Academy, just for people who don't know, is a school up on Mingus Mountain that's for delinquent girls.
Yeah, it's a residential treatment center for teenage,
that's what it's called, the
girls.
Residential Treatment Center. And what kind of treatment do they get there?
Anything that's needed for them. It could be substance abuse, trauma, coping skills. You know, they pretty much run the gamut.
Okay. And what was your function there, and what was your position?
I ran all the group homes.
The group homes?
Mm-hmm. So I had 3 group homes between Phoenix, Prescott Valley, and Dewey. So I ran all of their group homes.
Okay. And the group homes feed into the academy? Is that
Yeah, it's kind of the last step before the kids go home.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're initially boarded at the academy, then they go to a group home before going to their homes.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, very good.
Yep, and Jesse called me and offered me this position. I think the first night that her and I talked, I walked into shelter and I just immediately knew that I wanted to do something with this company. So I was hired as the assistant director. Then she was the executive director, and then she left about 2 years ago, and I stepped into some big shoes. So here I am now.
Yes, very big indeed. Now, how did the CCJ start? What was the very beginning?
So we've been a nonprofit since 2001. We actually started in the basement of the Prescott Methodist Church.
On Gurley Street.
On Gurley, yep. And we had a food program. We had school supplies. We would do a weekend food program. And really, it was just a group of churches that got together and said, we know we have folks living in our community who are in poverty, and how can we help them? Then we got a 501c3. We started off as the Interfaith Coalition for Compassion and Justice. Got our 501c3 and dropped the Interfaith and just became the Coalition for Compassion and Justice. The executive director prior to my predecessor was a gentleman named Paul Mitchell, who saw that we had a real need for a shelter, and decided that he would go about this by giving vouchers out to everyone to be able to set a tent up at sundown in the parking lot of our thrift store, which at that time was on Fair Street. So you could set your tent up at sunset. Tent comes down at sunrise, and that was pretty much what our first shelter looked like.
Where was that at again?
It was in the parking lot of our old thrift store, which was on Fair Street, which also happens to be across the street from the county building.
Okay.
So
and did that have approval of the city, or was that kind of behind closed?
It was private property. So it was a legal place to sleep, but it did gather some attention from the community.
Yes.
And that's actually how we were able to get our building that we're in right now.
Okay.
Was we had a donor that donated that to us. Paul built the shelter. And he vowed to have it open before the first snow or freeze of the season, and he did it. That first night we were open, it snowed. So at that time, we housed about 50 to 60 folks every night.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a lot of folks.
Yep.
To be responsible for.
Yeah.
And tell us about the progression of that.
Sure. So we still did food. We still had a lot of different programs. And when I came on into 2017, Jessie and I kind of sat down and she said, I feel that we have a lot of people that need housing, but we're still just giving folks socks. And that didn't add up to us. So we really shifted our focus about 6-7 years ago to really look at housing as a solution. When folks come to our door, yes, we have food, we have clothing, we have all the things, but what do they really need? And we realized that was housing. So from there, we dropped about 9 of our programs.
9 programs?
Yeah, it was a lot, and it was a really scary thing to do.
What were these programs?
So things such as school supplies, weekend food. We realized that we had a lot of programs that were duplicated in the community, and we didn't want to duplicate services, so we just dropped those programs that we knew were going on elsewhere and really honed in our focus on our 5 main programs now.
Okay. Let me back up and ask about the interfaith part. Mm-hmm. Are the churches, it's kind of started as a church effort in the community to help people who needed this kind of help, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, when you drop the interfaith part, did the churches stop supporting
Nope.
CCJ?
We're very
support it?
Absolutely, yes. We work really closely with all of the local congregations. We're also part of what's called the Quad City Interfaith Council, which is just a council of different faiths that get together. So no, we still very much have the support of our faith-based community.
Okay. And they're also, do they do like a monthly support?
Yep. Or, we have churches that feed in our shelter every week. We are, I'll go and talk to any congregation that would like me to talk about. I'll talk about anything really. But no, we're very still working with them and very much being supported.
Okay, good. And so at one point you were having 50 or 60 people come into that building. Now then you had to bring that number down. Is that right? And how come?
So we did a couple of things. We organically decreased the size of our shelter by really focusing on housing. So that's partnering with our other agencies that do housing. We actually partnered with Dorn Homes at the time to build housing, affordable housing, which we have 2 what we call lodges, which are essentially 6-bedroom rooms. What makes them a little bit different is they have an exterior door. So you rent a room in this 6-bedroom house, but you don't ever have to go into the main house or the main living areas if you don't want to, because you have that exterior door.
Okay.
It kind of feels more like an apartment. Okay. And then we also built 3 cottages, which are behind a home that we already owned. So we were able to build essentially what are just 8x10 rooms that have heating, cooling, electricity, and then everyone shares a bathroom, which is at the house in the front. So we really started developing different models of affordable housing. We feel that incremental growth is really important. So for example, if you're in our shelter, it's $3 a night. Then you can work your way up to a cottage, which starts at about $250 a month, to a lodge room, which is about $450 a month, to an RV or mobile unit. We have 6 of those in a park, and those go anywhere from about $400 to $650 a month. So we think that it's incremental growth is really important. And that's what helps our tenants stay in that housing, is because I'm not going, well, you paid $3 a night for the last 3 months. Now go and rent something for $900 a month. So that's kind of our model.
Okay. So you shifted from a shelter to a affordable living model.
And we still have our shelter. That'll always be one of our programs. That's really where the first contact is made with any of our clients, is through our shelter. But we just really focus more into housing, which is also why our newest project, Paloma, is very exciting.
Okay. Before we get into Paloma Village, tell us, how many can the shelter hold?
So right now we can hold up to 12 folks a night. We always keep a bed open for law enforcement. We work really closely with law enforcement. So if they have someone that they've found that needs a place to sleep at night, we always have a bed open for them.
Oh, okay. So instead of taking them to jail, they'll bring them to you.
Correct.
Take care of this guy.
Yep.
All right. And you must have someone on duty all the time
We do.
At the shelter to make sure it's being run smoothly.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. And this all costs money. Where do you get your funds from?
So we do not take any government funding
How come?
because I don't want people to tell me what to do with my money.
Strings is always attached, isn't it?
Yeah.
Always.
Actually, for Paloma, and I tell this story a lot, we just passed up a very large sum of money that would have funded the majority of our project because it was federal money. So a lot of times that comes, like you said, with strings attached. It would only have allowed me to be able to house anyone who was low income or very low income, which is a need. That's when we talk about low income or very low income housing, that's what we're talking about where our seniors are living right now. Anyone on a fixed income. But because I want Paloma and I have a vision of Paloma to be very much a forever home for some, I also want it to be a stepping stone for others. What we're seeing right now, other than a lot of senior citizens falling into homelessness and needing our services, is we're looking at two income or dual income households that aren't able to pay for rent right now. So, you might have a family where both parents have jobs and they don't make enough money to get any sort of assistance through the government, but they're not making enough money to pay for rent. Or we're seeing households that are walking that really fine line of homelessness where one family emergency, one death in the family, one unexpected bill could really put them into a position where they might be facing homelessness.
Yes.
And so my vision for Paloma is a community that is housing for most incomes. So that includes anyone who's making 30 to 50% of the area median income, but that also includes folks who are closer to 80% of that area median income because we are seeing a huge gap. I believe that, there always should be growth. So at CCJ, we really we promote growth. That means that if you're staying in the shelter and 3 months has gone by and we really haven't seen you put any effort in or not making the appointments or whatever that looks like for someone, that's a conversation that we'll have. The same thing for someone who's in our housing. If, rent is really, really cheap, great. I want you to work really hard at work so that you can get that promotion, so that you can get the more hours at work. So now, instead of, paying the $250 a month in rent for a cottage, maybe now you can afford the $400 for an RV or mobile unit. We just really promote growth and forward movement.
Okay. And what are the requirements for someone coming to Coalition for Compassion and Justice for Housing?
Well, right now, because our project isn't done, there isn't a whole lot of housing. That's an issue. But there really is not very many requirements. Anyone can come in to receive our services. You don't have to be experiencing homelessness. You might just have questions about resources. Anyone can come in and get help from us. It does.
Okay.
There's not really a list of things that you have to have. However, we also, again, that forward movement is we want to see our clients and our tenants really flourish to be able to have the life that they deserve. And I think that sometimes we get stereotypes and things go into that, and so we really want everyone to work hard to improve their own situation.
How are you doing on the private funding?
I mean, I always need more. I mean, we're a nonprofit. I love unrestricted funds.
Sure.
But most of our grants, we write a lot of grants, a lot of foundational giving, and then we rely on private donations. And we're doing really well. Our thrift store also has been just going gangbusters. I can't say enough good things about how well the thrift store is doing. So that's...
Where is the thrift store located at?
531 Madison Avenue.
Okay, a lot of good stuff there, right?
Oh, tons. Right now is a great time to come in.
And I've been there, and I've got some good stuff from that thrift store too. So go to the thrift store that the CCJ has there on Madison Avenue.
Yep.
And Madison, people might not recognize Madison, but it's really right on Miller Valley.
It is. Yep. We're kind of in the Bermuda Triangle of auto parts stores. We're across the street from O'Reilly's, and then we share a parking lot with Napa, and we're right next door to AutoZone.
Okay, right next to Napa.
Yep. If you find Napa, you found us.
Off of Miller Valley. Okay, really good. So I'm glad you're doing well on the private funding because that's hard to get.
It is.
And you must be out there a lot. Is that a big part of your job?
Very much so. Yes.
Out there looking for funds and I know we have some generous people here in town. Do you go outside of town very much to look for funds too?
I sometimes we do. I really feel that this community is extremely giving, and so even some connections I've made through some local donors have led to some nationwide things. I will apply for any grant, nationwide, worldwide, local. We don't. We're looking for money everywhere we can. But yeah, I mean, we've been doing really well, and I can't say enough good things about the generosity of this community. They've been so good to us.
So. That's wonderful. That's good to hear. Always love to hear good things about Prescott. And, they did a good article about CCJ and a good picture of you on there and a picture of Paloma Village. And we'll put that up on the screen so people can see what that's
perfect
like. And when do you think that'll start operating?
It is moving so much quicker than we anticipated, which is both so exciting, but also equally terrifying, for me at least. We are looking to actually purchase our first manufactured home, which will act as our model, hopefully by the last quarter of this year. I make plans and then it never follows through, but it's moving much quicker. So we're hoping to actually have houses being ordered around the first of the year.
How many people will that accommodate?
So we'll have 24 units because I will also have an on-site advocate that will live in the community as well. So it'll afford up to 60 people. We'll have 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedroom options so that we can serve those families and things of that nature. But yeah, they're about 60 people.
Has it been hard dealing with the bureaucracy of Chino Valley to get this all? Do you need to do approved to get in there?
No, it was a pretty easy, as far as the city goes, it was a pretty easy process. I mean, we have owned the land for some time now, so just getting through the permits and things like that. I think that there is a little bit of misunderstanding about what we're actually doing out there. This is not a project just for low-income housing or no-income housing. This is definitely a mixed-use project. But other than that, I think that we've had a lot of cooperation. There have been a few people here and there who've had some questions, which rightfully so. I welcome all of those things. I never shy away from questions about what we're doing. So if anyone ever has any questions, please reach out to me. I would much rather that than everyone kind of, hear all the rumors and things of that nature.
Well, Coalition for Compassion and Justice in Prescott is doing a great job. And you are the director. And thank you for coming and spending some time with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Here on this edition. And this has been Allison Lenocker as the guest today, and I'm your host, David McNabb. Thank you for tuning in to this edition, and come on back whenever you can. God bless.